It's an interesting time for business. Tariff and trade policies are dynamic, supply chains are squeezed, and cash flow, it's tighter than ever. If your business can't adapt in real time, you are in a little bit of hurt. So how do you get full visibility and adapt in real time? Over 42,000 businesses trust NetSuite by Oracle, your AI-powered business management suite. It brings accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all under one roof. NetSuite is the #1 cloud ERP for a reason. It's your single source of truth, giving you the data and control you need to move quickly. Real-time forecasting helps you move into the future with confidence, and with AI built in, you can automate the busy work and focus on strategy. NetSuite helps you see what's stuck, what it's costing you, and how to pivot fast. If I were running a business with a lot of moving parts, I'd use NetSuite for full control over everything. Tame the chaos with NetSuite. If your revenues are at least in the 7 figures, download the free ebook, Navigating Global Trade, 3 Insights for Leaders at netsuite.com/SPI. That's netsuite.com/SPI. Hey, I get it. You've worked really hard to build up your business, and it's doing great. So great that you need help now. The most important thing for your business is to hire the right people to support it. So how can you find amazing candidates quickly? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you stand out and hire fast. And with Sponsored Jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, Sponsored Jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. And it's one of the largest databases of job seekers, too, giving business owners access to a wide range of candidates. And one of the things I love most about Indeed is the job alerts feature. I get notified when new candidates apply. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/smartpassive. Just go to Indeed.com/smartpassive right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/smartpassive. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need. You spent months building towards launch day, but when the clock hits 0, your site crashes. Bots swarm, and loyal fans rage on Reddit. That's not good. Fanfare was built to stop that. Fanfare is the drop platform made for high-pressure moments, stampede-proof infrastructure, verified waitlists, and bot filters that actually work. Instead of refunds and rage, you get retention and revenue. And that sounds great to me. Your next launch shouldn't be a gamble. Get Fanfare's 5-step hype drop playbook and learn how to bulletproof your drop at fanfare.io/playbook. Again, that's fanfare.io/playbook. This is a Smart Passive Income Podcast with Pat Flynn, session number 114.
Welcome to the Smart Passive Income Podcast, where it's all about working hard now so you can sit back and reap the benefits later. And now your host, who had a goatee in college and has sworn never to do it again, Pat Flynn.
Still using a copy-paste website? Break the template trap with Framer. Whether you're overwhelmed by traditional site builders or frustrated with cookie-cutter designs, Framer gives you the freedom to create a site that's professional, polished, and uniquely yours. Framer is the design-first, no-code website builder that lets anyone ship a production-ready site in minutes. It's free to start, allowing you to browse hundreds of pixel-perfect templates or even design something on your own on a totally blank canvas. Add bold animations like appear effects, text effects, parallax scrolling, scroll animations, looping animations, and much more in seconds. The built-in AI handles the heavy lifting, generating starter layouts, and can even translate your entire site to any language. Ready to build a site that looks hand-coded without hiring a developer? Launch your site for free at framer.com and use code SPI to get your first month of pro on the house. That's framer.com, promo code SPI. Framer.com, promo code SPI. Rules and restrictions may apply. Running a business means legal questions are inevitable. Is this contract or agreement solid? What can I do if a client won't pay me? Am I set up properly for taxes? Well, rather than trying to navigate all of this on your own or searching endlessly online, imagine having a law firm on your side without the high hourly rates. That's exactly what Legal Shield's small business plans offer. With Legal Shield, entrepreneurs get access to real legal support, contract reviews, collection letters, guidance on business formation, and even help handling IRS audits. Members can book consultations, upload documents through the app, and work with a provider law firm that understands small business laws in your state. You also get proactive help on tax and trademark questions so you can stay ahead of legal risks. And if a client delays payment, Legal Shield can send professional collection letters to help you recover what you're owed. all for a fraction of what traditional attorneys charge. Go to LegalShield.com/SPI or call 833-570-9980 to learn more and get big business legal support without a big business budget. That's LegalShield.com/SPI. Yeah, it wasn't cool at all. But you know what is cool? You spending some of your time with me today. Thank you so much. I just want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, you rock. I mean, I do this for you, and all the feedback, all the ratings that I get, that just pushes me even more to do more of this. It's just an amazing feedback loop. Now, let's get to today's episode. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to 3 amazing people today, 3 people who are actually helping me get some stuff done in my business to help you actually. These are the people who are behind the new Smart Passive Income iOS application. There's an Android version coming out soon, but if you have an iPhone or an iPad, you could download this app right now. If you go to smartpassiveincome.com/app, you could download it right now, completely free. You can even stop this episode right now to download that and then re-listen to this and see how cool it is. So much effort and time was put into this to make it amazing and convenient for you to be able to consume the Smart Passive Income podcast, Smart Passive Income blog, and my Ask Pat podcast, amongst some future things that are going to be put in there. It's just been an amazing experience working with this team and also to deliver this to you. So many amazing comments coming from those of you who have downloaded it. Thousands of you have downloaded it, I can see, and many of you have sent emails just wondering how this was built, and that's why this show exists. That's why not the show, but this particular episode, I wanted to bring 3 team members on who are working with me and have helped to put this together. We're talking about all the things to put it together, from the development process to the design, why it looks the way it looks. And hopefully my goal here is not just to share the app with you. And yes, I would love for you to download it. Of course, I'm not going to be dishonest with you. But I also want to show you what it was like to put this together and the systems we used to put a project like this, a big project, an iOS application from scratch, together in 8 weeks. We would love for you to do the same with your big major projects. And you can see that this isn't just like, oh, well, I'm going to write a blog post, or I'm even going to compile an ebook. This is a big project. So if you're doing a membership site or any sort of applications, or maybe a higher end book of some sort, this is going to help you put those things together and see what it's like to work with a team, if you're going to indeed work with a team, and why that might be necessary for you or might be beneficial for you if you're going to make that decision, and how these systems are in place to keep things moving forward. And, it's almost there's a startup feel to how this was all put together, from the sprints to the QA, the quality assurance and all that stuff. Super important stuff I haven't really talked about on the show before because I have never really experienced it. So to see it all come together as the sort of leader of this team, and then having Matt sort of streamline everything, put the team together, and just get everybody on board and on the same track, is just really cool. So I hope you enjoy this episode. I know you will. It's very interesting. It's sort of inside the life of the app and how it all started and how it all got put together. So again, you can download the app right now if you want to check it out. smartpassiveincome.com/app. It's APP. So without further delay, here is my team. And the start of the interview, you hear their names and exactly what they do right now. What's up, Smart Passive Income listeners? I'm here with a part of my team. We got Matt Gartland, Dustin Tevis, and also Ryan Nystrom. We all help. I mean, there's more people involved in putting this together, but we wanted to talk about the process of building the new iOS application for Smart Passive Income, something that we were able to do in about 6 to 7 weeks, actually, for a project of the scope is actually pretty darn fast. So we thought it'd be all cool to come together and talk about the processes to help you if you ever have any large projects you want to tackle. Perhaps there are some tips and golden nuggets you can take away from how we work together to get your stuff done. So let me introduce each of these people who are on here to all of you really quickly. We have Matt Gartland, who I feel like is my other brain because he just helps keep everything organized, and I'm just so appreciative of him and his organization skills. So Matt, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show. We've had you on before.
Yes, thanks, Pat. It's great to be back.
We also have Dustin Tevis, who is our visual expert, I guess you could say. He's into user experience and designing, and he is the reason why the app looks, all the parts of the app look like the way they do. He's just an awesome job with the user experience. Dustin, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And then, of course, somebody needs to code this thing, and we have Ryan Nystrom for that, who's the expert who put all this together and make sure it works and is compatible, and it just flows quite nicely. One of the best comments that I keep hearing about the application is that it's just super smooth in functionality and flow, and there are always going to be an error here or two just based on people's iOSs and versions and stuff. But I mean, honestly, I've done over 25 different apps, and this is especially to an app of this caliber, very, very well coded. So Ryan, thank you again for your work, and thanks for coming back on the show, or coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. I'm glad people are enjoying it so much. I definitely put a lot of love into it.
No. I am just blown away by how amazing the response has been, and to know that we put this together, we had nothing about 7 weeks ago to something like of what we have now. It's just amazing. So Matt, would you mind taking over a little bit in terms of talking about the development process, and even what are the first steps for? I know we created an application here, but a lot of people out there might have app ideas or ideas for membership sites or whatever the case may be. Something large. How do you tackle something large? You want to do something big. Where do you even start?
We started with what are called user stories, and user stories are a helpful way of gaining definition to this nebulous, very abstract idea. And as you say, Pat, that abstract idea can be a mobile app, it can be a web app, it can be a membership site. The common denominator a lot these days is software. And what's exciting and challenging for a lot of online entrepreneurs is, they're kind of graduating maybe from just content, in blogs, and even more than just podcasts, and are really getting excited about, the opportunities that exist within software and software development. There's a lot of complexity there. So you have to kind of break it down into manageable chunks. And whether you come from an enterprise background or something, you can talk about these as business requirements or whatever else. But to contextualize the elements into, again, what are called user stories, it keeps the team and keeps you as sort of the product owner really focused on the end user, right? So you write these statements from the perspective of your fans, and you say, as a fan, I want this app to do blank because of blank. And this unifies both essentially a requirement, a feature set, with the value statement. I want to do this thing because it delivers some result. Mm-hmm. And at the beginning of at least this project, after we spoke with you and we were really excited about reimagining what the SPI app looked like, because I guess maybe as a quick data point, it's worth mentioning that you had an SPI app previously, right?
Yeah.
But we wanted to create an amazing new experience that just kind of knocked the socks off of everyone and really put the bar really high. So the three of us sat down, Dustin, Ryan, and I, and we just started writing out all of these user story statements, and that started to kind of give boundaries to the puzzle, right? And started to give some definition to, okay, this is what's possible. And from there, other decisions started to get made.
Do you think it's important to have everybody involved, a designer, a coder, and yourself as the sort of big idea guy, all together working at the same time to help figure out what these user stories might be? Or is it best to sort of just kind of pass them along?
I certainly do, and actually, I'll nominate Ryan to speak to this, because in most cases, and I can speak from this from a couple of very different experiences in my, I guess, career leading software projects. Typically, developers do not get pulled all the way forward to the very beginning of the iteration process. I believe that is a horrible idea, and that's why getting Ryan involved from the get-go is essential. So Ryan, you maybe want to talk to that?
Yeah, I agree with Matt. It's incredibly important to have the developer in there early on, especially when you're working with a smaller team, because it really gives the developer context on what they're actually building. Frequently, you'll see shops hand a developer almost like a line item sheet of, here's the stuff you need to build. Make this view go here, make a button here that goes to here, and make a pop-up happen. And it's all kind of just boring and filling out little checklists. When you actually get the developer involved early and get them involved in writing these user stories, you get a sense of what you're actually trying to do, and you also get a chance to find those things that are overcomplicated and not necessarily important to the main goal of the app. We came up with a million ideas for this app. But we really needed to kind of whittle it down and focus on the core pieces, the core functionality that were required and things that were feasible. There's a ton of amazing stuff that we wanted to do, but to just get off the ground and running and make a working proof of concept, we really need to hone in on what was available to us today.
Sure. Now, can you guys bring back some of what those user stories might be? Maybe some that they can obviously see when they're in the app, and also some that maybe got knocked out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna see if I can just pull this up in the background. I can even read some here from memory. There. To share quickly, sort of as a high-level categorization, there are the user stories from the user perspective. There are user stories then from the administration perspective. Because what's important also to take into account, which a lot of times gets sort of, I guess, undervalued, or it's almost the black sheep of the family, which is the administration side. Everyone wants to think about and conceptualize the front-end user experience because it's maybe sexier, it's what gets most attention, it's what people see in the app store, stuff like that, right? But this thing does need to function, on the back end, and there are a lot of critical requirements to making this thing operate. So there's administration or admin requirements as well. And in this case, Pat, right, we wrote those from basically your perspective. So like as Pat, I want this thing to do this for this reason. Mm-hmm. So that's really, really important. In terms of some of the user stories, I want an easy way to conceivably review all Pat's content, whether it's blog content or podcasts. And that essentially facilitated the main feed of content that basically a user experiences first after they download the app and get through the first sort of welcoming experience. Mm-hmm. Another important requirement was I want to then access individual podcast episodes in their entirety. So not only do I want to see a feed, but then I want to select an item from that feed and then be able to access the details of that particular content item.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I know that there was a lot of user stories that I wanted as Pat. Like one of them was I want to make sure I'm able to keep track of the events and the number of people who download the application. I want to be able to easily. I mean, there's a ton of them. I mean, I know you have this huge list there, and we could talk for hours about that. But
I want to filter the feed of content. I want to search the feed of content. I want to read individual content posts in their entirety. I want to control a podcast episode from a player. And that's one of the cooler things we did, right? So with both the SPI podcast and the Ask Pat podcast, we enable users to consume that content in app. So you don't have to go to a different podcast player. You can do it all from the SPI app. The player, once it starts playing an episode, will continue to play in app. And you can jump to different parts of the app. You can go to other apps completely, so long as that app is running in the background and your episode still plays.
Mm-hmm. And we had some user stories that we wanted that didn't get put into the first version, and that's always going to happen. So the sort of step by step here is create these user stories. Say, I want as a user to do this because this, and write as many of them as you can, and then you have to sort of figure out what's going to be in your MVP or your minimum viable product, and that can be a tough thing to do, to knock out some of the things. But I think it's also important to understand that you can't and shouldn't put everything and all the bells and whistles in the first iteration. You'd actually be kicking yourself in the foot, because you wouldn't get the app out or whatever it is you're creating out sooner to be able to do what it needs to do by wasting your time doing these other things that you can always do later. And then also, just wasting resources on stuff that may not be necessary up front. So I know you guys and also me, we went through a lot of things that may not, that sort of weren't necessary for the MVP. And you guys, I mean, especially you, Matt, you kept me in check all the time, because I said, I want this. I want people to be able to ask questions for Ask Pat directly from the app. And as cool as a user story that is, it's not something that was absolutely necessary in the first iteration to do what we wanted the app to do.
Precisely. We have a backlog. That's another term. It's an important artifact as a part of the type of development process that I advocate that the guys have obviously embraced as well. So we still have these ideas, and we are prioritizing them, in the backlog for future versions. So these great ideas just don't turn to vapor and disappear, right? So they're still there. We're going to mature those ideas. And as we get user feedback from even what's out there right now, we'll be able to better assess the viability and the value of these future state ideas and prioritize them appropriately. To maybe pull Dustin in the real quick in terms of making certain trade-offs, a lot of those actually he was involved in from the user experience, and there's probably some good stories, Dustin, you can share from that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you go into an app, there's like endless possibilities, right? You have all this latest trends, latest designed aspects, and you kind of want to fit everything into it, but then you have to kind of step back and think like, is this really best for the end user? And that's kind of when we come in and do a competitor analysis, essentially. And we kind of look around, see what people are using, see what people are responding to. And part of that's like searching blogs and then searching the App Store, the iOS App Store. Once we do Android, which I know that's something we might talk about, we would do the Android App Store, but just making sure that everything we're doing kind of falls in line with what's out there and that people are familiar with it. And then kind of picking those things out and making sure the user has the best product possible. I think that's where it gets kind of awesome.
I think one of the cool things that goes along line with that was when you first showed me the first test version of this app, and I opened the application, and then there was this sort of welcoming, sequence in the beginning where it shows you my image. Hey, I'm Pat Flynn, and you flip through the screen. Well, this is what this app's about, and you flip through the screen, and this is what the app would do for you. And it was just so cool because I've seen that in other applications that I do enjoy, and you sort of just borrowed that opening sequence from other applications. You didn't steal anything, but you just used that initial feeling that people have when they open an app for the first time that people resonated with and that there was a trend out there for it, and you've adapted it to our own. I thought that was really smart.
Yeah, so there's so many trends, and although there's a lot of cool stuff, like those best practices really stand out. And certain things like that intro slide definitely familiarizes the user with the app, and they feel comfortable. And then as soon as they're done with it, it's quick and easy, and they're all ready to go. And it builds that confidence that we want to in these products. So
would you recommend for anybody listening out there who has a big project on their mind to look at their competitors, to perhaps maybe they're building a membership site, to look in membership sites that they are a part of and start to make a list of what they like and what they don't like?
Absolutely. Like some of the sites I use personally, and this falls into more of the UI, so the user interface, but it also falls into UX, are sites like Scoutsy, Dribbble, and Behance. You do have to be careful because there's a fine line, like I said, with trends. And although things might look cool and seem cool, for the end user, they're not cool at all. And so kind of taking that with a grain of salt and using sites like that. And also just like, your competitors from the app stores, you'd be surprised how much you can find with reviews, blog posts, and what's working and what's not. And kind of putting all those findings together help you consolidate to this final user story, essentially, that you can build out.
All right, so obviously there's a lot of things moving here. There's a lot of parts going on. We talked about user stories. We talked about the sort of lean launch with the MVP. We talked about a little bit about user interface, although we could get more into what makes a good user interface for anything. But there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of people talking. Matt, can you describe how you all communicated with each other, and what was that like? How often did you talk? Was there an agenda in each of those meetings? And what tools were you using?
Yeah, it's a big topic. I love talking about this stuff. And I think of this, the communication aspect, the organization aspect is sort of the invisible magic to not only software projects or specifically app projects, but to any great creative idea. It's really easy to obviously have an idea, but how do you take an idea and then operationalize it, right? If you will, from like almost world history. Okay, I want to expand my empire. That's great. How do you actually move an army, across territory and take land and all that sort of stuff? You need a plan. And big kudos to Dustin and Ryan for just being awesome. We communicate on the same wavelength sort of stuff. And we did use tools to help facilitate that. The biggest one to probably mention is Trello. Trello is a free web and mobile. They have mobile apps, a collaboration platform that helps you organize information first by boards. So you can create a board for, say, a given project. We have a board for the SPI iOS app. And then inside the board, you can organize further into lists. So we have a list for the backlog of ideas. So the stuff that we haven't tackled yet, but is really interesting. And that's getting evaluated for the future. And then we have other lists for the various phases of the development effort. So we have a list, essentially that's for Ryan for development. We have a list for UI and UX for Dustin. We have a list for content and QA, which I was basically shepherding those. And then a third dimension, hopefully this isn't getting confusing, but then you have cards. So then you can put cards into lists. And it's very fluid. You can easily drag and drop cards from one list to another to another. So we organize each card to represent a user story. So we have all these cards. It's easy to then drag these cards, which is one user story per card, from various phases of the project. You can comment on cards. You can add detailed requirements to cards. You can add, when we got to testing, checklists. So for example, as we go through this, we can identify through our QA process, okay, this stuff is working, these aren't. We were able to add very detailed line items for then Ryan to be able to go back and address. He can click that checkbox. He knows that's done. That gives me a signal to retest it and make sure that it's valid.
Yeah, Trello is great, and it's kind of hard to visualize based off of explanation. You kind of have to just go in there and see and play around with it. And I know a lot of people who swear by it. Yeah,
it's hard to articulate in words. The user experience is really simple and amazing. Trello was big. We did speak frequently. So the three of us were talking multiple times during the week. We were meeting frequently on weekends. It's nice that even though a lot of our collaboration is virtual, that the three of us are together in Columbus, Ohio. So we were able to meet in person, on the weekends a lot of times to continue our iteration. And Pat, I know you emphasized this in a recent blog post, is we've adopted Slack, which is another communication tool. There's a great mobile app for that as well, all free. And we've been using that to really enhance our communication and iteration. And it's made the entire process very smooth.
Yeah, Slack is amazing. I just talked about it in a recent blog post as one of the top apps that I use on my phone. And it's just, I can feel from a leader perspective of this team that just the responsiveness and just people knowing what's going on is much, much better now that we've been adopting Slack for sort of primary communication.
Yeah, communication, I genuinely don't feel gets enough attention when we talk about these really awesome software projects or web projects in general, because the attention, and maybe rightly so, goes to the user experience, to things that you can see and feel and touch and whatnot. But and I'd love to even pull Ryan back into this, as a developer, just how critical good communication is to a project like this.
Sure. I was actually going to ask you, Ryan. I mean, from a developer's perspective, it doesn't matter what type of person you're trying to hire to do something, whether it's an app developer or a coder for your website. What makes your life easier, Ryan? If you could just have the perfect sort of client, I guess you could say, what would they do and how would they help you do what you need to do?
Well, I think one of the most essential things for me to effectively work is really to just have documentation, to have a paper trail about what's going on, about what we're working on, about what changes were made, about why they were made. Early on when we started this project, I think we really established that email is a black hole for communication. That although it's great for sending text instantly over the wire, you can't actually keep track of a project's communication through it. So I think one of the amazing things about Trello is that we really started using that as our email communication, where we would start talking about something, we would have a question, a comment, maybe a concern about a certain feature or element, and we would just go to the comment thread on a particular card. So we might go to one of the user stories that says, I want to filter the feed of Pat Flynn content. And I would hop in there and say, tag Dustin and say, hey, this check mark here, do you think we should change the color? Do you think it should animate in? And Dustin would have the opportunity to respond. But then whenever I'm going into, Xcode to start writing some code and building something, I can also pull up that card, look at this communication chain, understand what's going on, what decisions were made, and then jump back into Xcode and start building something. To me, I think that helped me. There was no fog of war. I wasn't unsure about what I was building or about anything. I knew exactly what to do. And if I didn't have an answer instantly, it was really easy to find it out.
Yeah, because I've worked with developers in the past. So this is especially when I was first starting with app development back in 2008, 2009. And I had these ideas in my head that I wanted, and through email, I would email the developers and say, I want this to happen, and that's it. And then I'd get it back, and it wouldn't be anything like I had imagined. I mean, that's where I learned the importance of actually wireframing and doing all that stuff. And that wasn't even working with a designer. And so when you get a designer involved, like Dustin, I mean, to have the designer and the developer talk to each other, I think is incredibly invaluable. The question is this always possible?
Well, I personally think it is. As long as you're keeping the team small enough and you've really got everybody that understands all the different parts, all the different moving parts. Mm-hmm. That was something that Dustin and I did really early on. We sat down and we both wanted to get started. I wanted to start writing code. Dustin wanted to open up Photoshop and start laying down some pixels. But we both knew that if we just jumped into it without really collaborating on anything, that we might step on each other's toes. I might build something that he doesn't want, or we might kind of crisscross. So that's one of the first things that we did is we sat down together. We started wireframing. We started just drawing boxes with arrows pointing to other boxes with like labels and saying, okay, from the list view, you need to tap an item and it needs to go and show you the content. And then there needs to be a play button. And we just went through and kept drilling down. I don't know, Dustin, if you want to add anything about our wireframing process. I mean, we really, I think, personally, not to boast, but I think we really knocked it out of the park really early on.
No, absolutely. I mean, we did have a clear idea of the goals we wanted to accomplish. And a lot of that was when we all three met and talked about the user stories. And when we had the foundation of those user stories started, Ryan and I just went at it and we crushed it. And we basically laid out, the first draft of the whole app. And what happened then is Ryan, he started developing as soon as I started designing. So we were working in tandem and we were on the same page. I knew what I was designing for. He knew what he was developing for. And then we kind of came together in the end, which I think saved us a ton of time, but also a ton of headache, which was awesome.
Yeah, and with those user stories established early on, I was able to build essentially the entire app, satisfying all of the stories. It looked like absolute garbage, but it worked. You could play podcasts, you could browse things. But then while I'm building all of those, Dustin is building the designs. And when I'm done with this kind of prototype that satisfies the stories and Dustin's done with the designs, we both stop, we converge, and then we apply the designs to the actual app, and it was like seamless.
That's awesome. Dustin, can you talk a little bit about just UI and user experience in general? I mean, that's what you're an expert in. I know a lot of people out there who are listening, might not be able to hire somebody like yourself, but are there any basic rules when it comes to how to make an experience great for somebody who's going through one of your products or a website or something that you build?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the first thing I would say is when it comes to user experience, there's kind of a misconception on what a UX designer is. And usually it's not just one person. So usually it's the user experience is kind of drawn out between everybody. So for us, I mean, it was Matt, it was Ryan, it was I, and myself. I don't think I could complete the whole user experience on my own. I mean, it's a lot of work, but there's kind of so many touch points that you don't really want to leave it to one person. So whenever you're in a project, whether that's just the owner of the project and the designer and developer, if you can get everybody involved, I think that right there helps immensely. Mm-hmm. And then when it comes to the actual UI, I mean, for us, it was a little easier because we knew we were working on iOS. So the awesome thing about iOS and platforms alike is they have certain guidelines. So we know buttons should be this size, pixel size. We know what corner radiuses should be. We know what text size should be about because Apple spends the time and creates this human interface guideline, which kind of lays all this stuff out, saying like, this will give you the best experience that we can guarantee. And if you follow these rules, everybody will be happy. So building on top of that, we kind of have to inject one's brand or image. And when you can kind of do that together, I mean, it comes together pretty cohesively like this app did.
Right. Matt, can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the, was it all perfect the whole way through? Was there any snafus or anything that kind of didn't go the way they were supposed to? And then how did we get out of that?
There's always bumps in the road. This was a pretty smooth project, but it's never perfectly smooth. And we were able to mitigate a lot of that through the close communication we had, the use of Trello, stuff like that. And a great example is the featured images in your blog posts, actually. So we originally wanted to, pull through those images and style them and position them, inside the app in a particular way. And Dustin had worked up an amazing UI that in fact illustrated that. This was a technical challenge in terms of pulling that through from WordPress and being able to parse out that particular image and plop it into the app in a particular way. So we were sort of frustrated by that point, and we spent a little bit of time trying to, adapt it and try different technical angles to solve for that. And, Ryan would take a swing at it and, throw back a new revision, and we'd look at it and say, yeah, that's not really the user experience we want. So, try a different angle, and that's not quite there yet either. So ultimately what we did is we took them out, at least in the feed. So you don't see them in the feed. There are some images that pull through into the blog content. And, if a user probably weren't listening to this podcast, they wouldn't think, anything of it, right? It's, hey, it looks great. But we do, we ended up dispositioning that detailed requirement, a detailed requirement within, one of these user stories to say, hey, we want to, this isn't done. We want to take a swing at this again, but it wasn't worth the headache and the technical risk and the delay to timeline to, continue to basically burn cycles doing that now. And that is a testament to, again, the communication that we had, our alignment around the development process, which I think agile maybe gets mentioned too much, but it is agility. We were agile as almost a verb, and that allowed us to make some of those relatively quick decisions and pivot quickly and still accomplish the main objective.
What is agile? Can you explain? I know there's a lot of people who have heard that and maybe not quite know exactly what that means.
Sure. And if anyone's listening as a seasoned software developer, there's really strong opinions on this, and I'm not trying to probably get into the weeds on either side. Agile as a almost philosophy, if you go to agilemanifesto.org, I believe, or if you just Google Agile Manifesto, it did start out as a philosophy, a set of tenets or value statements, essentially for how software development professionals, whether they're designers or developers or product owners and those sorts of folks, kind of like myself, how we conceive and approach these sorts of opportunities to build products. It's not necessarily meant, or was at that time, to be a tactile methodology. Subsequently, others have contributed to that, sort of extrapolated from the value statements and tried to put methodology behind it. So you have methodologies like Kanban or Scrum, XP, different sorts of implementations to try to basically make real, in a pragmatic way, the ideals, of Agile. A couple simple things. Agile promotes, working software. So as Ryan was articulating just a bit ago, we had something functional very quickly. It looked horrible, but it worked, right? And we were able to use that as basically our keystone to guide, further decision making. Another one is obviously kind of cycles. So we were talking not only once a week, we were talking multiple times during the week, but essentially we were sort of on a weekly sprint cycle. And obviously, Pat, for some of the larger initiatives and for the team at large, we're on sort of a bi-weekly sprint cycle. And that allows us to hold each other accountable, to keep the communication going, and to make sure that we are delivering value on a regular frequency.
Right. I love the sprints. That's something that is new to me since working with all of you guys. And it's just great because what happens is we meet every week and we talk about the exact things we want to have done by the next 2-week cycle. And then we check in midweek and we talk about how we're doing and what we've accomplished and what we have left to do, just so we're all in check and we're all holding each other accountable. And I love it also because it forces us to not only get things done, but to keep moving forward and keep adding new things and keep, adding new features or thinking about what else we could do to help promote the brand and, ultimately generate more income down the road.
Yes, precisely. Maybe to pitch it back to the guys, because they also have experience with you could say non-agile or nimble project development cycles. So how do you guys conceptualize these or contrast sort of the methodology that we employed for this versus some of the other stuff that you guys have done?
Traditionally, traditional places will just use there's this methodology kind of called waterfall, where you basically do things in a sequence. No work's really parallelized. You have to do design first, or even before that, you're doing planning and checking for scope and all of that. You move on to design, and then when design is finished and signed off on, you start development, and so on until you launch your product. One of the biggest issues that I've run into with that is that in the planning phase, you'll establish a timeline. We want to launch this product in 6 months, but things happen. There is never ever a project that starts and ends the way it was supposed to. You always run into stuff. You always got to make turns. You get hit speed bumps. And when those things happen in a waterfall approach, you extend one of those sequences. Something takes longer. And what happens is that down the road, you lose time in some of those other phases. So for instance, you might spend too much time doing designs because somebody doesn't like the way something looks, or somebody wants to change the direction in the middle of the project. And then because of that, you lose a couple weeks from your development cycle. And that can kind of rush things, introduce bugs, problems. Sometimes it can just be really frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and time itself also creates then this inconsistency and kind of disconnect from the whole experience in the beginning. So from a more agile view, we kind of together create this user experience. But when you take that waterfall approach, that experience kind of gets cut up into tiny little pieces. And as you move through this process, you lose little by little, and then towards the end, you kind of see the end product, and you're like, it's not necessarily what we were going for. And then everybody's kind of on edge. And, for me personally, working on the agile methodology has been amazing. It's made my life a lot easier. I know it's made Ryan's life a lot easier. And so much so, Ryan and I work at an agency here in Columbus. We're actually starting to adopt that methodology, which is kind of cool.
That's pretty awesome. Now, the app is out there, and, we get a few comments here and there from people who, we've discovered that there's a couple bugs for people who have the iPhone 5C for whatever reason, and there's a couple people who seem to have noticed, and it doesn't happen for most people, but when their app shuts down or goes to sleep mode, the podcast that was playing stops. And so I think that the big reason I want to bring this up is there's always going to be bugs. There's always it's never going to be perfect, and I think that's something that a lot of people have to live with. But there are certain ways to handle these things. So, Matt, how are we addressing the issues that people are coming up with? How are we going to fix them, if we're going to fix them? And then also, I think the big point here is, once you come out with something, your membership site, your product, your app, that doesn't mean it's the end, right? There's always stuff that's going to happen afterward. How do you organize that stuff and deal with it?
Yeah, there's a lot there. The first thing is that we will be addressing these things, and we love and welcome and encourage feedback. So everyone that has contributed, to that in terms of sharing, hey, we love this feature. Hey, this one over here doesn't seem to work maybe the way I'm expecting it to. All of that is so valuable. So thank you. We catalog that stuff. It goes back into the backlog, in Trello. So we have then that consistency of record keeping that Ryan was mentioning earlier. It's really easy just to keep funneling this stuff back into our user stories, and then prioritize those appropriately for our corrective action cycles and our future release cycles. For, I guess, a broader point, and Pat, obviously you lead the charge in this dimension and you excel at it, is just establishing expectations, right, with the user base. So you're always communicating with the users. If someone gives this feedback, you're quick to acknowledge it and embrace that, and continue to encourage them to give more feedback and whatever else. So I think that end user communication, consistently setting their expectations, is really invaluable. What's tricky sometimes, even with iOS, as Dustin was saying, which is a pretty locked down environment. Apple has really clear guidelines and things. There's really only a couple permutations of the software version at any given time, depending on when people update. There are still edge cases. So there are, and the term edge case is sort of an industry term. It's a weird extrapolation upon extrapolation of series of events that could get a user into a situation where something breaks. It's not a It's not something maybe that all users are experiencing or that a primary sort of user experience would facilitate. It's on the edge of some reality, right? A combination of things, whether it's a software setting at the operating system level or at the device level. You mentioned, the iPhone 5C. So a combination of things could lead to something. So that's what's both, I guess, challenging and fun, and certainly sometimes frustrating, which is, okay, trying to figure out the edge cases, because they're sometimes hard to predict and you don't always have the answer to addressing those, at least immediately. So you have to triage them.
Right. Absolutely. And so I want to end on talking about something that's really cool. It's the fact that, all the work we put in and the number of hours we put in to create this thing, it's actually just so amazing to see the feedback from everybody. And it's just, a testament to all the great work that you guys are doing, and also just this entire process of putting this together. I mean, we could have taken a waterfall approach. We could have done it in so many other ways, but just to see the end product and it actually filling in those user experiences and making those user experiences happen is just so fulfilling. So I encourage everybody out there who's creating to, after you create, see what, pay attention to exactly what you just did and how it's affecting people. But also at the same time, be open to that feedback and make sure to not only address those things and reply to people who are having potential issues and problems, but really listening and keep moving forward. I think, if you think about applications specifically, a lot of the best applications out there, they're coming out with iteration after iteration to address issues and make things better and add more features, as opposed to something like my old application, which was put out once. I think version 1.1 came 6 months later, and then 3 years later, I didn't do anything else, and it ended up breaking. I have a tool called Flurry connected with that application that allows me to see how many times people have checked in and used it, how long they're using it for. I have over 35,000 people who downloaded it, and about 100 people are actively using it. So I completely failed on that part because I just wasn't really listening or paying attention, or didn't even make it a priority. And I think that's going to be different this time around for sure.
It is. We can tease that we're working into a quarterly cycle. So as it stands now, we're listening, we're categorizing all this great feedback, we're having our internal conversations around priorities, and the intent now is to have that quarterly cycle. So there'll be revisions and new enhancements coming out on a 3-month basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also have to think about the purpose of what it is you're creating too. I mean, the purpose of this, and again, it's completely free to download. You can get it at smartpassiveincome.com/app. And if you're listening to this in the future, if there is an Android version, when there is an Android version available, that'll be available at the same location, smartpassiveincome.com/app. But this is free. This is a way to help the SPI audience more easily consume and just make their life easier, which will hopefully help with the trust that we have and just show that we're always trying to provide, which can then lead to potential customers and other interactions and transactions down the road, just because of trying to give away. But obviously, you don't have to give up what you're creating for free. You could sell these things, and you should if you know you're providing value, and people are going to earn what they pay for back over. So just wanted to point that out, and I'm just going to go down the line with each of you one more time really quick, just to first of all say thank you, and also have you give anybody out there who's listening who is sort of ramping up toward a big project 1 or 2 tips that's going to help them move forward. So Dustin, can we start with you from a designer perspective? First of all, just thank you for all the work that you're doing. It's amazing. And what would you recommend to somebody who's just getting involved with a really big project that might involve a lot of moving parts and pieces and things that should work?
Yeah. From a UI perspective, I think for me, and especially in this project, is focusing on the details. So anything from those little tiny animations that are like kind of inseparable from the data and how that's represented in the app, make sure that the user enjoys the experience, and every single detail counts. I can't stress it enough. And those little pleasures, will make that user come back and keep them engaged. And then that's all worth it in the end.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I mean, if you go to this app right now and you open up the feed and you click on that bar on the upper right-hand corner where it drops down the menu of all the different content that I have that you could sort through, you can just see how it animates and it comes through and the 3 dots come in at different times. I mean, it's so small and minuscule, but it is so cool. It just makes it pop.
Absolutely.
Love that. Ryan, how about you?
I think especially for anybody that's in the development world and is looking to start a new project or is getting ready to start a new project, get in there and start writing stuff early. Start playing with APIs. Start looking at data. Start building specs. Make something that meets all those functional requirements. It looks horrible, but get it out there. You're going to run into stuff. You're going to find bugs and quirks and limitations that you wouldn't have seen elsewhere. So just get in there, roll your sleeves up, and start building something sweet.
Awesome. And Matt, we'll end up with you.
Probably to complement Ryan's point, and I'll borrow this from Neil Gaiman, one of my favorite writers. So this was said in context of writing a book or something in that domain. But you have to finish things. Whether it's a book or a website or a blog, in this case, a mobile app, you have to finish things. We could have iterated on this thing to death. We could still be doing it, but we chose, this is good enough. We're going to finish here. We're going to get this thing out here. We're going to listen to the users, the fans. So that's what we did. And what we will continue to do is work hard, finish things, rinse and repeat.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you again for coming on the show and sharing a bit about the development process of this application. I know it's going to be helpful for others, whether they're doing iOS or Android stuff or sort of other big projects on their own. Ryan, Dustin, Matt, thank you all so much.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Matt, Dustin, and Ryan, the three guys behind the production of the iOS application, which you can get right now for Smart Passive Income over at smartpassiveincome.com/app. You can check out all the little details that we were talking about and see how it works. It's also going to be upgraded over time, of course, and an Android version will come out as well. All the show notes for this episode could be found at smartpassiveincome.com/session114. And I hope you enjoy the episode with some of my team members on. A few of my other team members will be coming on fairly soon. I have Jessica, who is the person who is just really helping me transform how I manage my email. It's Jessica, my executive assistant. Some of you have emailed me recently and probably heard from her. She's kind of, I'm not even going to get into it. The episode we recorded, which we did already, is just, it's going to blow your mind. So I can't wait for you to check it out. Now, lastly, before I finish up here, I do have something special to share with you. Actually, Glenn Alsop contacted me the other day, and he was actually wondering about the sponsorships here for the Smart Passive Income podcast. He knew I was doing sponsorships. I've worked with other companies like 99designs.com and also audiobooks.com, both who had very successful campaigns promoting at the end of the show here. And of course, I only promote companies that are awesome. Glenn really isn't a company, but he always has such great stuff. Amazing things going on, and he's so forward-thinking with marketing. He is obviously the owner of ViperChill.com. He's the creator of the WordPress plugin Opt-in Skin, which has been majorly successful. I use it on my site as well. And in the last year, he's managed to build a $60,000 a month marketing company. And he's actually taught a number of other people how to do the same thing. And based on the success of his teachings, he's launched a free 2-hour video course, completely free, showing step-by-step how you can build a highly profitable client-based business. So this is different than selling information. This is a client-based business that Glenn has built for $60,000 a month. He's taught other people how to do the same thing, and you don't have to be a marketing expert. So there's no opt-in for it, nothing. You can watch the videos. They're each about 15 to 20 minutes each. So, if it's not your cup of tea, you can leave, of course. But Glenn, like I said, always has great stuff, easy to digest. If you're interested, check out marketinginc.com. That's marketinginc, INC.com. After you've watched the videos, you'll be able to speak to Glenn directly through the comments on his site and with other people who have gone through the course. So check it out, again, marketinginc.com. Thank you, Glenn, for sponsoring the end of the show here. And, I watch a couple of videos myself there. Dude, you're always doing great stuff. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Smart Passive Income Podcast. You rock. Have a great day, and just make stuff happen. Make stuff happen. Don't wait to create. You got this. Take care. Peace out.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Passive Income Podcast at www.smartpassiveincome.com.
Have you dreamt about being your own boss, but still haven't made the first steps to making that dream a reality? Well, I get that. Starting a business can feel super overwhelming with legal forms, paperwork, finances. It's a lot. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about Taylor Brands. Taylor is a complete business builder designed to make launching your business simple and stress-free. You can register your LLC in just minutes, keeping your personal assets and the business assets separate from day one. From there, you get access to everything you need to get off the ground: legal documents, licenses and permits, invoicing and bookkeeping tools, and even a 100-day business coaching program, all designed to help you hit the ground running. You'll also get a free personalized business plan, branding tools, and so much more. And of course, listeners of this show get an exclusive 35% discount to get started. All you have to do is head to taylorbrands.com/SPI. That's TAILORBRANDS.com/SPI. Stop dreaming, start building with Taylor Brands. Hey, fellow podcaster, does this sound like something you've experienced? You record your podcast episode on one platform, download the files, edit in another app, then fire up a different tool just to create these social clips? Well, it can be clunky, time-consuming, and frankly overwhelming, especially for creators trying to grow. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about Riverside. Riverside is the all-in-one platform. Record, edit, and repurpose your podcast content all in one place. You just log in, record with your guests no matter where you are in the world, and just like that, studio-quality audio and high-resolution video. We use Riverside here at SPI as well now. With built-in AI, I can automatically clean up my audio, saving myself so much editing time, and it can even auto-generate clips to make promoting the show a breeze. And with Magic Clips, I can grab the best moments and repurpose them as short-form video, perfect for YouTube Shorts, TikTok, or Instagram, without re-recording a thing. So if you're tired of juggling tools and want a faster, simpler way to create and scale your content, it's time to try Riverside, built by creators for creators. Just go to smartpassiveincome.com/Riverside and use code SMART to get 1 month free on the Pro plan. That's smartpassiveincome.com/Riverside, promo code SMART.